in this segment of EndNote citation management, we're going to be looking at how you can organize your library once you've got material in it. I'm Professor Wade Lee Smith of the University of Toledo Libraries. So often the next step after you have imported references and attached full text would be to go ahead and organize your references according to how you're going to use this research in your workflow. So there's a couple ways you might do this. One would be to create folders or groups to keep sets of references together that logically go together in your mind. Another way would be to add your own notes to these references so that you can remember what's important for you about them. And then finally, we'll cover how you can use the find functions in EndNote to look for references within a larger library. So I'm going to pop over to EndNote, and we can talk about some of those things. So first of all, there are groups. And so you can see that there's a section called My Groups. You can create another group set where you say, for example, chapters, and then you could create groups for each chapter of a manuscript, for example. So maybe you have an introduction and background, maybe you have a results, maybe you have a discussion, maybe you have a theory section. So you can organize them however you want. You can have multiple systems of organization. You could also just organize them by topic. So maybe I'm going to have a topic of Tasmania, for example. So you can move things from your all references group over into any of these groups. And so let me say that I'm looking at this and I decide that this is a good thing to talk about in my introduction session. I'll move that over there. You'll notice that introduction now has one. I can move multiple ones over there just by selecting them and moving them. I can also right-click on them and say add references to, and then it'll have a list of my groups. So I can add them into there. When I add them there, they stay in all references, but unfiled goes down by 1. If I delete a reference from a group, it is not deleted from my library. So if I hit delete, I have 3 references in that group, but still 219 in my library. So it's important to remember that what goes into these folders over here are copies of the references. And so you can delete them from the folder without deleting them entirely from your library. Some other things that people use to organize is to start to take their own notes. And so if we look over here at the reference panel, you'll notice that this is where I can actually edit information. Some information will be there depending on where I got this reference from, but there are a couple places that are always going to be blank. And so as I look through here, label is always going to be blank. So I can give this one a label. And so I'm going to say Southern Hairy Nose, because that's the type of wombat that they're talking about. And then under research notes, maybe I'm going to note that, here is a good plot or graphic in this article. So I can take my notes directly over here in the reference. And then when I come back to them, I can look for those, or I can actually display them up here. And so I'm going to take away rating and reference type and say that I want to show the labels and the research notes. And that way when I am looking through here, if something is labeled or something has research notes, I can read it right here at the top. If something has a PDF attached to it, there's another place I can take notes, and that is by clicking on a sticky note here and clicking here and giving it a note. So I'm going to say hairy nosed this type of wombat in here. And when I do that, it will stay with that reference. And so if I come back to that PDF, you notice that I can find it there. So then the last thing I want to talk about is searching. So I can do a quick search up here at the top. It is going to search through everything. So if I put it in a note in the PDF, if I put it in the research notes, if it was in the original article itself, I can find it by searching using this. There are 23 things to talk about Tasmania. Maybe right now what I can do is go in here and select all of these, and I'm just going to drag those over to my Tasmania group. So that way I know that it's in there. Now, the more PDFs that you have attached, remember when you're searching in here, it is actually searching the PDF text as well. So if you wanted to search something else, you can say show search panel, and you can search for specific places. So if you want it to not be in the PDF, but just over here on the reference itself, you would say any field. If you wanted to search all of this, any field plus PDF with notes, or just your PDF, or just your notes, or just your labels, or just your research notes, wherever you want to search. You can tell it that you want to search there by using the search panel. If you use the search box, you'll be searching everywhere. So hopefully that gave you some ideas on how you might use groups, labels, research notes, PDF notes, etc. to kind of organize and work with the results that you have in your library.